Hello, welcome to the Manasplained podcast. I'm Connor. Today I'll be talking about the deck I built for Ragnar. So Ragnar, 3 mana, tap for 3, regenerate target creature. Now, I know what you're saying, that's bad, and it is, but it's still better than 90% of the other commanders from this set, because it actually does something that's a little bit different that we can use to our advantage. Regenerate's weird, it stops a creature from dying to damage or destroy effects. And then removes it from combat if it's in combat and then taps it down. So it's a really bad save effect, but it's still a save effect. So the way I decided to go about this deck was to use the regenerate ability to keep around a bunch of important creatures, some high value creatures that people are going to want to get rid of. And so because of Ragnar, they'll have to use multiple pieces of removal on that one creature in order to remove it. I think that's a good way to use this ability. It's the only thing I could think of. There are also some other creatures in here, maybe just one, that has a death, like dies, like it'll kill itself, but you can use regenerate to stop it. And it's a weird kind of synergy right there. So I hope you like the deck, and let's jump into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps boost engagement and get the numbers up, and I really appreciate it. So for the deck breakdown, we have 15 theme cards, 15 sub-theme, 6 synergy, and 6 protection, as well as 12 draw, 13 ramp, 10 removal, 2 wipes, and 37 lands. The reason it's 37 lands is because one of the lands is a Mazavith, so it doesn't really count as a land, so that's why I'm running 37 here instead of 36. I'm really happy with the 12 draw, 13 ramp, and 10 removal. They're really nice. I like having all of those numbers up over 10. It makes the deck run a lot better. And for the theme and sub-theme, the sub-theme are a bunch of 3 mana things that you can do at instant speed, so that when you hold open mana for Ragnar's ability, you have other options you can do as well. So like on the end step before your turn, say no one casts any removal, so you can cast a 3 mana thing to do that. People might respond to you activating his spending the 3 mana with an instant speed kill spell, but you can't just not use that 3 mana forever, so having a bunch of instant speed stuff to use that 3 mana on is very valuable. And then the theme is all of the high value creatures you'd want to keep around using Ragnar's ability. Altogether though, that's 17 crossover cards. That is so many. I always aim for at least 10. This is more than 15. That's so many crossover cards. So that's what, a sixth of the deck is cards that are fit into more than one category. So every 6th card you draw is worth more than one card in what this deck is trying to do. That's so amazing. And like I said, the theme is a bunch of high value creatures, and I'm really happy with all the creatures I put into the deck, and I'll go over them now. Each of these cards make a crap load of tokens. Nikata War Pride, all the tokens get removed at the end of combat, but when you attack, if the defending player has a bunch of like 1/1s, 2/2s, 3/3s, 4/3s, something like that, you're attacking with a huge amount of creatures, and if they don't block, they're going to take a crap load of damage. And then you can just regenerate Nikata War Pride, so if it would die, then it's safe to attack again next turn. It's such an awesome card. I didn't know the cards existed until I was building this deck. I was looking for Army in a Can cards, and this really isn't an Army in a Can because they don't stick around, but it's still really cool. Meanwhile, Adeline Resplendent Cathar and Silverwing Squadron are both Army in a Can. Whenever they attack, for each opponent, you make a token. And that is insane. That is so many. Like, that's 3 per combat. And then you can regenerate Adeline or regenerate Silverwing so that they don't die, and then every turn you're making the army bigger and bigger and bigger. They both have vigilance, and both of their powers are equal to the number of creatures you control. That is insane. These cards are ridiculous. Here are some more armies in a can. Hero of Bladehold and Leonin Warleader. Whenever they attack, you make 2 1/1s, which is amazing. And then Threefold Thunderhulk. It's kind of ridiculous. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you make a bunch of 1/1s equal to its power, and it starts out as a 3/3. And then you can sack artifacts and put +1/+1 counters on them to make them even bigger. Threefold Thunderhulk, absolutely insane card. The fact that whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, it's making 3 3/3s on a 7 mana creature, which is, oh my god, that's so many bodies. And then you can just keep doing that, and you can regenerate it if people try to destroy it. Like, oh my god, all of these cards here are going to make your board so wide. Then we have some removal creatures. So Phyrexian Vindicator, whenever it takes damage, it redirects that damage to any other target, which is fantastic. That's amazing. It's probably the best blocker ever printed. This card is ridiculous. Coggle the Titan Ape, when it enters the battlefield, it fights something, which you can then, if you had the mana, you can use your commander to regenerate him so that even if it's fighting like an 8/7 or something like that, Coggle will still survive, which is great. Whenever it attacks, it destroys an artifact or enchantment the defending player controls, which is even more removal. And that's an attack trigger. It's not on combat damage. So you go to attack, you get to destroy one of the artifacts or enchantments the defending player controls, and if they go to block it, you can use your commander to regenerate it, which is awesome. And also, Ragnar's a human, so you can use the 2 mana on Coggle to bounce him back to your hand to give Coggle indestructible if you want to do that instead. It's fantastic. The Magus of the Disc is super interesting. This is the card I was talking about earlier. So it's a Niveniral's Disc. It's 4 mana, enters tap, pay 1 tap, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. But it doesn't sack itself. So you can use Ragnar to give Magus of the Disc regenerate, so that when Magus of the Disc blows everything up, he sticks around because he'll regenerate. It's such a cool interaction. I'm so happy I found that. Here are some more high value creatures to regenerate with our commander. Sun Titan is a ridiculously amazing card. Redemption Choir is a Diet Sun Titan because you have to get that coven going, but it's honestly not that hard. Arcanus the Omnipotent, pay 6 mana to tap him for 3 cards, that is so much card draw. Like, that is great. And it's a 3/4. It's a pretty half decent blocker. Survive a lightning bolt, stuff like that. And so you can use Ragnar to keep him around, because people want to get rid of Arcanus because that amount of card draw, 3 extra cards per turn, can win you a game. And then All-Seeing Arbiter. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And that's an attack trigger, so if it's going to be blocked by something, maybe an Atraxa, you can regenerate it. It removes all the damage. We're good. Also, it has a whenever you discard something, but that's probably not going to happen in this deck. And then the last 2 cards I wanted to add, Coma the Cosmos Serpent. It is also an army in a can, but it's each upkeep you make a 3/3, and then you can sack one of the 3/3s, and Coma can either tap a permanent and its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, or it gains indestructible to the end turn so it can protect itself. But say you can also use your commander to protect it if you need to, and Coma is just a ridiculously powerful card. And then Grothma All Devouring is really interesting. So whenever a creature attacks, it may fight Grothma All Devouring, and then when Grothma leaves the battlefield, each player's draw cards equal to the amount of damage they dealt to it. And because of Regenerate, you can stop Grothma from leaving. So essentially, you just get a 10/8 for 5 mana, which is it's an insane rate. So because we're going to be holding 3 mana open to be able to regenerate any of our creatures, we're going to need to be able to spend that mana if we aren't regenerating them. So all of this stuff is instants or flash speed, 3 mana things that are just good value. So the 3 mana protection pieces I chose were Guardian of Faith, your Temple's Under Attack, Guardian Avenger, and Final Word Phantom. The only one that's a little awkward here is Guardian of Faith, because Ragnar's ability is 1 of each color, white, a green, and a blue, while Guardian of Faith requires 2 white pips. So if you're going to want to be able to hold open Ragnar's ability and Guardian of Faith, you're going to need a land that can tap for a white and another color. So you could have like a white, green, and then a blue open. So you could potentially do both. But besides that, Guardian of Faith protects your whole board. It'll phase all of them out. It gets around. The crazy thing about Guardian of Faith is that it gets around Farewell, which is super important because board wipes that exile everything are kind of the standard right now, which is crazy. Farewell is the gold standard. Everyone's running it and is a huge problem. And your Temple's Under Attack won't protect against that. It just won't. And Guardian Avenger won't protect against that either. It doesn't protect against board wipes. So you need something like a Guardian of Faith nowadays to be able to protect yourself from these insanely powerful pushed board wipes like Farewell. That card is ridiculous. And the one card here that isn't protection, but it kind of enables a lot of shenanigans is Final Word Phantom. It's really cool because cards like Leyline of Anticipation and Vidalcan Orrery are very powerful cards because they give all of your stuff flash. But Final Word Phantom for 3 mana gives you flash during your opponent's end steps, which is where you're most likely going to be casting that stuff anyways. This card is insane. It's very pushed. A 1/4 for 3 mana with flash that has this effect is insane. I don't know. This card seems so pushed and so insanely ridiculous to me. I don't know. Giving a Vidalcan Orrery flash and then making it 1 less mana, or oh my god, it's crazy. It's actually crazy. Here is the 3 mana removal I put in the deck. Gen Gift and Beast Within, classic removal pieces. Stroke of Midnight, just better than both of them, even though they can hit a land. The only time you're ever going to hit a land is if it's a not Fabled Passage, Field of the Dead or something, that, or a Maze of Ith, something like that. And those come up less often, at least not very often when I play. So the inability to hit a land, really not that big of a deal. And then Croson Grip and Bant Charm. Croson Grip can destroy target artifact or enchantment with split second, so it can't be countered, which is fantastic. It also can't be responded to. So Croson Grip is one of the few cards that can actually get rid of, what's it called? Oh my god, Sensei's Divining Top. And because of that, I love Croson Grip, because I hate Sensei's Divining Top. I hate that card so much. It just wastes so much time. And then Bant Charm, it's the same mana requirement as our commander's ability. So it's easy to hold open just like that. And it can put a creature on the bottom of its owner's library, which gets around indestructible, which is super important if you're playing against Avacyn's or other stuff like that. And finally, for the 3 mana category, we have all of the instant speed draw spells. The 3 different Thirsts, they all draw 3 cards, and then you have to discard 2 cards unless you discard a card of the chosen type. So Discovery is a basic land, Thirst for Knowledge is an artifact, and Thirst for Meaning is an enchantment. The Thirst for Discovery, I don't know, you're probably going to be able to discard a basic land with this relatively often. And then Thirst for Knowledge, there are quite a few, there's actually not that many artifacts in the deck. So Thirst for Knowledge and Thirst for Meaning are basically just going to be pay 3, draw 3, discard 2, because not often you're going to be able to hit the discard the card type, but that's okay. You're just trying to filter through more cards, find more big creatures, and be able to use your commander's ability on some more valuable stuff. Frantic Search will draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, then untap 3 lands, so it's a free Faithless Looting. And if any of your lands tap for more than 1 mana, you're mana positive, which is crazy. Quick Study is a Power Crept Divination. Divination's a 3 mana sorcery to draw 2 cards, and then they printed Quick Study, which is just objectively better in every conceivable way, which is kind of hilarious. Good job. And then Hunter's Insight. So if your creature is unblocked and you don't need to use Ragnar to then regenerate it for some reason due to it being blocked, or there's like a 1/1 death touch out or something like that they flash out, I don't know, then you can use Hunter's Insight to draw a bunch of cards based off the damage it deals, which is fantastic. That being at instant speed and 3 mana, super good. So the synergy category in this deck is a very much a catch-all category, but all of these cards do synergize very well with the commander, and I think that any one of them out at a time will just power up the deck so much. So with our commander being able to target any creature and regenerate it, being able to redirect the damage from ourself onto that creature is very useful, and Pariah and Pariah's Shield are just, they're the cards that do that, and it's crazy. Other decks could probably use this better, especially have indestructible creatures and stuff like that, but our commander, we can throw Pariah or Pariah's Shield on our commander, and then whenever we would take damage, we can just redirect it to our commander, tap our commander, regenerate itself, no problem. The other issue is you can only do it once per rotation of the table, so because of that, there's a chance that the creature that you put Pariah on will die, but you do get 1 instance of being able to negate all of the damage that's dealt to you and then keep the creature around, which is super great. And Pariah's Shield is an equipment, so after the creature dies, you can equip it onto a new creature, and it's kind of crazy. But what's better than regenerating 1 creature is regenerating a lot more than 1 creature. So Illusionist Bracers will duplicate Ragnar's effect, letting us generate 2 creatures. That works so well with Magus of the Disc, because we can tap Ragnar to regenerate Ragnar and our Magus of the Disc, activate Magus of the Disc. Every creature, artifact, and enchantment gets destroyed except for our Ragnar and our Magus of the Disc. So then we could do it again later if we wanted to. The Illusionist Bracers would go away, but still, that's absolutely hilarious. And then Asceticism and Seedborn Muse will let us regenerate a lot more. So Seedborn Muse untaps all of our stuff on each other player's untap step, so we get multiple uses of the regenerate. And with all of the 3 mana instant speed stuff we can do, we can make great use of all that mana. And then Asceticism gives all of your creatures hexproof, and then you can pay 2 mana to regenerate target creature. It's, oh my god, I wish Ragnar said this, because that would be insanely powerful and so stupid. It would probably be a little broken, but it would make Ragnar a lot better. Asceticism is basically a backup commander in this deck that is way better in every conceivable way, because for 6 mana, we can regenerate 3 creatures, but with Ragnar with 6 mana, we can regenerate 1 creature and then wait till he untaps again. Like, it's Oh my god, it's so good. Asceticism plus Seedborn Muse in this deck. Oh my god, it's crazy. Because Seedborn Muse protects itself by untapping our Ragnar or getting more mana for Asceticism. Oh my god, it's so good. And because we have a bunch of big creatures, attacking creatures and stuff like that, and we have some Army in a Can cards, I just wanted to add True Conviction. This card gives your team double strike and lifelink. That's ridiculous. Oh my god, you have an army of 2/2s out there, you have like a 5/5 Phyrexian Vindicator, just double strike lifelink, 10 life right there. Oh my god, this card's actually insane. I love this card so much. I run it as much as I can in all of my army decks, I guess, because holy crap, giving all of your creatures double strike and lifelink will win you a game, because unless you're playing against like combo decks that'll win outside of dealing damage to you like infinitely, this card will get you to a life point that is so high that no one can really do anything about it. And it's kill on sight, which means that they're going to they're going to use the removal on this because they have to, or else you'll win the game with it. And then your other stuff that they also want to remove is a little bit safer because they had to use removal on this. It's removal deterrent. It's a win the game card. It's crazy. I love it so much. Also, this art from a Gideon spellbook is so good. So our commander is protection, but it can only protect one thing at a time, and we want our commander to stay healthy so it can protect other things. So that's what I was trying to do with the protection category. So I know what you're going to say. Lightning Greaves and Whispersilk Cloak are non-bows with our commander because haste and shroud. Shroud means we can't target with Ragnar, which sucks. It does suck a lot. But at the same time, Lightning Greaves can equip to our commander for 0, so that the turn after we play Ragnar, if we have our Greaves out, or the turn we play Ragnar, if we had 6 mana, we can throw our Greaves on it, and then, hey, we'll have 3 more mana to tap them to regenerate. Probably not going to happen, I know, but let me cope. And then the Shroud, it means that our creatures are protected from removal, but not protected from board wipes. And like I said before, a lot of board wipes exile right now, which regenerate also doesn't protect against. So I'm okay with the Shroud here. It doesn't, like I said, it does non-bow with the commander, but I'm perfectly comfortable with it because of all of the exile board wipes that currently exist, as well as the fact that Whispersilk Cloak will let our big creatures get in for damage, which is super nice. It's a way to let our big creatures that have crazy attack triggers or just going to deal a ton of damage. It's going to be fantastic. Also, if you throw Whispersilk Cloak or Lightning Greaves on Grothmaul Devouring, fight is a target, I'm pretty sure. So let me know if this works or not, but I think if you put Lightning Greaves or Whispersilk on Grothma, people can't fight it, so you just get the 10-8. And then Swiftfoot Boots is slightly better, slightly worse than these other cards. It's better in different ways, being hexproof, so we can still target with Regenerate. So if there is a damaging board wipe or a destroy all board wipe, we could still regenerate the creature that has the boots on them. And then you already saw these. These are the 3 mana protection pieces that are at instant speed. They're great. Guardian Augmenter, giving our commander hexproof, is fantastic. So because we have access to Bant, we have access to very good card draw, and even the less good card draw is still very strong. And because I'm not running the big X spells, or we're not running any of the big green draw because of your big creatures draw spells, because I need to keep it low, the 3 mana stuff, or even lower. The card draw is good, but not phenomenal, but that's okay, because this deck is about incremental value with our big meaty creatures, and we want to keep our mana open, be able to regenerate them, or cast these 3 mana or less spells that'll really help incrementally gain us enough value to take the game. So Infiltration Lens and Mask of Memory are both amazing cards. Infiltration Lens says whenever the creature becomes blocked, you may draw 2 cards, which a lot of times just gives the creature unblockable because people do not want to give you the cards. It's honestly kind of funny. Mask of Memory makes the creature forced to be blocked because if you deal the damage, you'll draw 2 cards, then discard a card. But we have some flying creatures. We have Garruk's Uprising to give trample. We have Whispersilk Cloaks to give unblockable. You need to put the Mask of Memory on first before the Whispersilk, but that's okay. So I think we'll be able to connect with Mask of Memory quite often. And then yeah, Garruk's Uprising, whenever creature's power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under control, draw a card. That's all of your creatures power 4 or greater cantrip, which is amazing. And then yeah, giving everybody trample is ridiculous. It's so strong. Garruk's Uprising, one of my personal favorite green cards. I love it so much. And then Unctus Grand Meditect. Whenever a blue creature you control becomes tapped, you draw a card, then discard a card. So Ragnar is a blue creature that we're going to be tapping to regenerate stuff. So that's amazing. And then if we want to, we can pay a blue or 2 life, and target creature we control becomes an artifact. It would get +1/+1 if we did this. I don't see that happening often in this deck. But hey, maybe someone has a board wipe that destroys all non-artifact creatures. We can pay some mana or some life to protect ourselves. I don't know. But yeah, the looting whenever we tap our commander is awesome. And then the rest of these draw cards you've already seen, all of the 3 mana instant speed ones, as well as these 2 creatures. All of this card draw is great, helps the deck churn so much better. And we're a green deck again, which means we get good ramp. Love me some land ramp, and I filled the deck with a ton of it. That way we'll have the lands we need and all the colors we need to be able to activate Ragnar's ability, because getting 3 colors and then multiples of those colors so that we have mana for like a Guardian of Faith or this or that, the other thing, having those lands out that are 2 colors, very important. So a lot of non-basic land ramp is needed. But before we get into that non-basic land ramp, Sol Ring, it helps us cast everything else around our commander. It does nothing for our commander, which I almost cut it, but at the same time, it does help cast everything else so well. It's a 1-drop. It's so hard to cut. This card is ridiculous. Growth Spiral, instant speed, 2 mana, draw a card, put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. I ran this because it's a 2 mana instant speed. So on the end step before our turn again, if we have Ragnar mana open, we can Growth Spiral instead. It's so good. And then yeah, Mirari's Wake doubling our mana and being an Anthem, the card is ridiculous. Here's a bunch of land ramp. Farseek, Into the North, Nature's Lore, and 3 visits. All non-basic land ramp, which is fantastic. They can go find whatever 2 colors we want. Nature's Lore and 3 visits has to be green, so it would either be green, blue, or green, white. But hey, we're going to need green for all the other green cards we have. And the ability to get those dual lands is so valuable. And then we have our 3 and 4 mana ramp. 3 mana is basic, but our 4 mana ramp can find non-basics. It gets forests. So Skyshroud Claim, you're probably going to get a white-green and then white-green and then a green-blue source. Same with Ranger's Path to be able to get all of your colors out. Super great. Now for the removal. We're in Bant, which means we have access to absolutely ridiculously phenomenal removal. White, probably one of the best removal colors for board interaction. Very good at dealing with permanents, stuff like that. Green has 1 card that's very good at it. That was not okay. That card shouldn't exist. But yeah, and a lot of it's 3 mana, which I showed earlier, which is super great. The removal in this deck is phenomenal. I'm really happy with it. It can deal with a lot of stuff because, Bant things. And the removal you haven't seen yet, Swords of Plowshares, Path to Exile, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, all 1 mana, all get rid of creatures. Swords and Path, Exile, Pongify, Rapid, they destroy. So it's a little different. It's honestly a lot different. But the 3/3 left around by Pongify or Rapid Hybridization is way less of a commitment than the life gain from Swords or the land from Path. The land from Path honestly really sucks, but the land is going to be less problematic because it's a basic over the problematic indestructible thing that you can exile with it. And then Dismantling Wave, 3 mana sorcery, destroy an artifact or an enchantment that each opponent controls. That's a 3-for-1, and 3-for-1s are so good. You can also cycle it for 8 to destroy all artifacts and enchantments. I don't know why you would do that. That's very mana expensive, but the option is still there as an 8 mana board wipe. And again, you've already seen all these 3 mana instant speed removal that are all very solid. There's a lot of really big creatures in this deck, and there's not a lot of ways to protect them while keeping your commander around, keeping some of the other smaller stuff around. And so the board wipes I went with are going to be pretty one-sided for the most part. You will have to protect some of your bigger things. So Citywide Bust only hits stuff with toughness 4 or greater. Like, that it hits a surprising amount of things, honestly. There's a lot of commanders that are like 2/5s. Atraxa is a 4/4. The other Atraxa is 7/7. And a lot of our stuff is bigger than 4 toughness, but we're not going to... There only have 15 of those big high-value creatures in the deck, and some of them are just able to protect themselves. Some will have protection for other stuff, like instant speed, give everything indestructible and stuff like that. But we could also, if we have 1 or 2 of them out at a time, honestly, if we're casting Citywide Bust, it means we're going to come out of it on top. So we could regenerate one of the creatures we want to keep. The other one goes, but then we're dealing with way more important stuff on our opponent's boards, which is honestly the reason you play this kind of card, because it keeps our commander around. And then Magus of the Disc. Like I said, it will get rid of our commander and everything else except for planeswalkers, but we get to keep the Magus of the Disc around when we regenerate onto it. That synergy is so good. So because we're in Bant, we have access to green-white, which means we have access to one of my favorite lands of all time. That land being Croson Verge. It's like a super amazingly powerful Myriad landscape because it finds a forest and plains. They can be non-basics. They help you fix. You can go get a green-white and a white-blue, or a green-blue, white-blue, whatever. Any combination of at least one of them, and one that has to have a green, one of them has to have a white. So, oh, so good. I love this card so much. Some other cards I put in the deck that might worth noting. Rose Passage to give our big creatures unblockable, which is another way that we might not have to use Ragnar to protect them. Arctic Tree Line, running a bunch of snow lands in here so that we can get them with our Into the North. Hedge Maze, these cards are going up in price and it sucks. I think Hedge Maze might be like $7, $9, $10, something like that. I can't remember exactly at the moment, but I know it's close to $10. And I wish these lands would be reprinted into the ground because I'd love everyone to have access to these constantly, because for casual, they're the perfect land for casual. They're so good because they enter tapped, they're fetchable, and then they survive. Oh my god, they're so good. And then I'll say this in all my videos that have worth commanders with at least 2 colors in them. Wizards, please put the Battle Bond lands in the commander precons. They're multiplayer cards. Please put them in the multiplayer products. So when building this deck, I got to about 92 cards, and then I was like, wow, okay, I guess I need to find more stuff to put in. Normally when I build a deck, I go to like 130, 150, and then I have to cut back, and that is very difficult to do when you get to numbers like that, because sometimes you're just adding cards to add cards and they're easy to slash, but sometimes if you're building a commander that is super synergistic with so many cards, it is really hard to find cards to cut. But with this commander, because of the strategy I chose, it was a little hard getting to 100, so I did overshoot it a bit so that I'd have some wiggle room to make some cuts back to make sure I got what I wanted. So I ended around 105, so I only have 5 maybe cards, and here's what they are. So if you've noticed, our commander says target creature, not target creature you control. It's any creature. And so if we had Cowardice or Dismiss into Dreams out, or like a Will Breaker, we could, like, yeah, you can target your opponent's stuff and kill it, which is insanely strong. But I don't know, it felt kind of scummy, and I wanted the deck to be more focused on our board and less of our opponents. And Dismiss into Dreams is 7 mana, which is insanely expensive. But I could see Cowardice is the 101st card in this deck. I can easily see this being slot in over one of our, like maybe Grothma. This also is 5 mana, so swap it in for Grothma maybe if you don't like that card. I totally could see that. Because yeah, Cowardice will bounce the creature back to its owner's hand whenever we target it with our commander. But yeah, Dismiss into Dreams. If you had a way to get this out, your commander could just kill every one of your opponent's creatures. And they have to sacrifice. So as long as the creatures don't have Shroud or Hexproof or Ward or something, even if they have Indestructible, they got to be sacrificed. Dismiss into Dreams is kind of ridiculous. And then the last 3 cards of the deck. Reconnaissance. This card is like $17 or something, which, man, I wish it was cheaper, because 0 mana being able to Maze of Ith the creature on a 1-mana enchantment for 0 mana Maze of Ithing a creature is so good. I mean, it's one of our creatures, but it's able to protect it from combat, so you can attack, get the attack trigger, and bring it back, and you untap it. So it's like oh my god, this card's insane, because it's vigilance, but our creature survives the combat. Oh, it's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. And oh my god, it's amazing. I love Reconnaissance. It's so strong. But it is like $17, so I cut it. But if no budget, I would absolutely add Reconnaissance to the deck. Angelic Cub, whenever it gets targeted by an ability or spell the first time each turn, it gets a 1/1 counter. So our commander does cost 3 to activate the ability, which is why I didn't add Angelic Cub, because that's a pretty steep price for a 1/1 counter. But Angelic Cub is a really awesome card. It's probably one of the best cards in an Arabo deck. My friend has an Arabo deck, and if I see Angelic Cub hit the field, everyone gets terrified, because this thing turns into a problem. And then Uro. It's kind of expensive. It needs to escape from the graveyard. And the sacrifice doesn't get stopped by Regenerate. I originally added to the deck because I was like, maybe Regenerate stops sacrifice. I was pretty sure it didn't, but I was coping. and turns out it doesn't. But it's still a really high value creature. It's 3 mana. It, oh my god, it gains 3 life, draws a card, and then you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. It does so many things. It's an all-in-one Simic value destroyer of worlds. And because of that, I wanted to put it in, but this deck doesn't have enough stuff going into the graveyard to make the escape easy, I don't think. So that's the deck. I know a lot of people were waiting on Ragnar. I got a bunch of comments about this, being like, I can't wait to see what you do with Ragnar. You're going to hate Ragnar. He does nothing. Or, I love Ragnar. His ability is hilarious. Stuff like that. So I hope people are happy with the deck. I hope it lives up to Ragnar's reputation of being a regenerating boy. He's kind of hilarious. It's a different, worse version of Angus Mackenzie. And if I could go back and redo Angus Mackenzie, I would make it a lot more like this deck. Fill it with the 3 mana instants and flash speed stuff. And then instead of the high value creatures, it's a bunch of planeswalkers. A bunch of high value planeswalkers. Because that is a better way to build Angus. I saw that was a Command Zone put out a video talking about the best old legendary creatures from Legends and stuff like that, and they put on Angus Mackenzie and they talked about how you can build him that way, and it's quite strong. And yeah, I can't believe I didn't do that. So if I could go back, I would build Angus a lot more like this, and that was definitely an inspiration when I was putting this deck together. So these are all my socials. Twitter is where I post when my videos go up. TikTok and Reddit, I'll eventually start making content for there, and then Architect and Moxfield are where all these deck lists live. So thanks for watching, and as always, get building, splainers. Alright, that is so